Hello and welcome to another episode of the M42 Adventures podcast. I am your host, Rick Trimmer, and today we have on a gentleman who is a man of many talents. He's actually going to be a guest on another podcast that we're having with a gentleman named Jeff Crossland, who is I don't know about world-renowned, I think world-renowned chef, right? Just an absolute rock star in the culinary world. And Chace has worked with Jeff, and so he's coming up on another episode, but this episode is actually what Chace does full time, and that is being a firearm instructor. He actually has a company called Shot Dixie, and my wife actually went and took a class from him on self-defense and training with pistols and loved it. She was scared of pistols, just intimidated by them, and that class really helped ease her and give her confidence to use that firearm if heaven forbid she ever had to. So I'm excited for this conversation. This is going to be a good one. We're going to jump into all things firearms, and we'll jump right into this. Stay tuned. So yeah, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Good.
All right.
You're back in here. So I actually had you on. Your episode hasn't come out yet. When is Ricky? When is the Jeff and Chace outdoor cooking episode coming out again? October 4th. So in about a month. It's still a ways out, but people are going to love that one. So we recorded with you. This will probably come out after that then, right? When do we have this one? It's on the schedule. I know it's on there too. So yeah. So they're kind of spread out, but people are going to hear this. I actually might move this one up in the rotation actually a little bit if we're going to talk about the Genesis a little bit. I'm going to maybe look at that. So anyway, for those people listening, this is Chace Seegmiller. We had him on. He is a man of many trades. I've actually seen you at work on just hanging signs and stuff.
Lots of stuff.
I mean, you're one of those guys that just, I wish I was that way. I'm so envious. It's like, I know I could do it, but for some reason, my brain just shuts off when it's time to fix a door or fix my car. I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to go there. Yeah. And I have been my whole life. It's interesting that you are the opposite. You just kind of think I can figure this out and I will.
My dad told me one time I should have been a farmer. He's like, you can fix anything. I'm like, with baling wire and duct tape,
I am so envious of that. And it's not even a skill necessarily. It's the mentality that I'm jealous of. The mentality of, because even when I was broke, I was just, my story, I was just dead broke. I mean, we were living off top ramen for years. And still, when it came time to change my oil or something, I'm like, I will just beg, steal, and borrow to have somebody else do it. I just don't want to go out there. The couple times I've tried to do something, I also mess it up worse. Like strip the bolt out or something or put it in wrong.
That never really sets you up for the next task, it never gives you that idea.
Sends you backwards.
I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah. I'm like, well, that $40 of savings cost me $200, so that's why I should pay somebody. But anyway, so we had you on with Jeff. What's Jeff's last name again?
Crossland,
that's right. So the outdoor cooking episode, and you guys are, people are going to hear that one. You came up and cooked for Ryan. That's how we met. You were cooking at Ryan's Order of Man event in Pine Valley.
Yeah.
And I said, man, those are delicious. And you're like, they're tacos, so not too crazy, but just the details. And I could see with your, it wasn't outdoor. It was inside in a nice kitchen, but I could just tell, not even necessarily your skill set, but how you were with people and your teaching skills. And so I came up to you right after, right? And I says, dude, I just got a good vibe from you. Stay in touch. And you ended up tracking me down a month later. And we got a lot of things going on together now, right? Yeah. We're working on some different collaborations, deals, whatever you want to call them. So this one is actually going to be, because you actually own a company called Shot Dixie.
Right.
Which you're a firearm instructor.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about, when did you start that?
So I started that technically. So I started taking getting all my certifications in 2020. COVID happened.
Okay.
And I just saw just a really large escalation in gun sales. And primarily those were, pistols for personal protection. So, you see a need, you feel a need. So like, I went out and got all my certifications for everything that I needed as far as pistol was concerned.
So you had a history of fire. I mean, you obviously love them.
Yeah.
I mean, you felt like you could jump into this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Full
so you've
bore.
been
shooting my whole life.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I'm 5th generation out here in southern Utah.
Okay.
So like when I was growing up, what is Coral Canyon Golf Course now, was all my grandpa's land, and he raised horses, Appaloosa out there. So we shot from the back balcony, like everything. We were out there lighting fires, building huts, like everything like that. So the skills that you talk about, that was a lifetime of just playing around with stuff and learning things through, kind of like failure and learning what works and what doesn't work. And just started building from there, started contacting companies for concealed firearm equipment, just different companies that I felt like would be beneficial for Shot Dixie in general, things that I like to use, that I've used, that I could actually, show people and demonstrate. And so started going into that, contacting lawyers just to be able to talk about laws and restrictions for different things like personal protection inside the home and outside the home, because those hold different laws depending on when you're, how you're defending yourself and what happens afterwards. And then I got my CFP, permit, instructor permit. So here in Utah, the CCW, which is concealed carry weapon.
Okay.
It's CFP, which is concealed firearm permit in Utah, and it covers 36 states.
Yeah, I have mine.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's always really good. And I try and tell people, because there's constitutional carry now. So
we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, there's that.
There's a lot of states. I'm always shocked when I hear of anything guns coming back in favor of guns, because it just feels like they take and we lose, and it is a battle. And so when I hear other states are like, hey, we're going to open this back up, I'm like, whoa, what's happening? Like, that's good news.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, under Supreme Court law, everyone can carry for personal protection, in every single state. It's just, how federal law works. The states still have the option to say no.
Okay.
So, there's definitely other states that regulate
14
that.
states say no.
Yeah.
36 say yes.
Yeah. So, and then reciprocity is different with different states. So you always got to follow. Like what will actually be allowed. So what concealed firearm permit per state is allowed in other states. So you got to follow all those guidelines. So like Utah is 36, but there's like ones that Florida accepts that we don't, in Nevada. That,
interesting.
It's kind of weird.
That's wild.
So you got to know those different things.
I know when I went on I road trip the U.S. for, 5 or 6 months right at the end of COVID, because, on my travel history, and there was nowhere to fly to really. And we were just going crazy. So we're like, let's drive. And so we jumped in our SUV and drove around, and I took a gun. I'm like, I'm with my wife and kids, and you never know. No. You just never know. And we'll talk more about this, but I just feel safer with a gun and in protecting my family and my property. And it was funny because we'd cross a state line, and I'm like, am I allowed to have this here? Yes. Okay, good. And I'd feel comfortable. And then we'd go into a state where I couldn't, and I'm sticking it under the seat of the car, underneath the carpet or something, because I'm like, I can't have this here. And it was it was a weird thing, because we went to, I think, like 40 states.
Yeah.
And so we went into several, that you couldn't have it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happens? I'm sure they frown on it, but I'm like, it sucks that you can't just drive around America and be free, and it's all the same.
Right.
I'm like, it's a really weird thing. I would Google it, and I'd be like, okay. I actually was surprised. We were in Detroit, which you can.
Yeah.
And it was rough. We were downtown, and it was there was guys riding four-wheelers around downtown and dirt bikes, and I'm just like, this makes me nervous, hopefully they're nice and, not trying to judge them, but it looked like a rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
And we're out there walking around, and I got my pistol in my belt, and I just felt better in case something went down. But I was actually surprised there, because I'd just come from New York where I couldn't have it. So I had to dig it out of my hiding spot, and so that's a really hard thing to manage when you're traveling and in and out,
It makes you feel like a criminal.
It does.
And you're not.
Exactly.
And
I'm like, I am
hard.
legal. I went through the classifications. I went through the training. in this state and these other 36 states recognize it and your state doesn't, and you're exactly right. It felt, my kids were like, why are you hiding that, Daddy?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because we're in a state that doesn't let me have this. And like, well, we're in America.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get it either.
They've got it right.
Yeah. I'm like, my 8-year-old's like, well, I don't get it. We're still in America. And I'm like, I don't get it either, but I can't get caught with this. So we're going to hide it. But it was a really strange and just kind of disappointing part of that trip where, you just don't feel like you're free.
Right.
So.
And, I completely understand that. And I don't think people really get to feel that way or understand, that feeling until like they want it, until they want that right. And so people, for personal protection, I think that's the biggest thing. So that's one of the reasons why I delved so highly into personal protection, and because that's what I wanted to really focus on and become the best at and most knowledgeable at, so that's what I could apply my knowledge to other people, because I feel like that's realistically the most realistic object of whatever firearms.
Yeah, because if you're, with what you're doing, it's not a lot of hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll correlate and translate into hunting and the comfort with guns and stuff. But pistols, you're either going to do some, my wife's dad travels around the U.S. and he does that like country, Western shooting where they dress up like cowboys.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And it's his passion.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes down here and competes in the senior games. And that's kind of what M42 Adventures is, is we're trying to expose people. Right now, we'll talk more about this, but with the Genesis and our chapters or channels. Okay. I'll never get that right. So just bear with me. But our channels in there, we have 35, 36 of them, and we're going to add all the time. But it's like, not only can you go and I tell people, come in and try, firearms and try kayaking. Yeah. And try mountain biking. You never know which one's, like you just said earlier, you went with the one that drew you and that you were good at. Yeah. And that was firearms, and you enjoyed it and you like being around them. And so you never know. But then within those channels, there's so much. There's long range shooting. Oh yeah. There's target shooting. There's pistols. I have a brother that's in that long range shooting stuff. They just went to Colorado for a competition, and he's selling a gun. And I'm like, maybe I'm interested. What is it? And he says, I've got 15,000 into it, but I'd sell it for 8. Yeah. And I'm like,
and that's logical right there for competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long range.
Yeah. He says he has 20 into his, or 24, I think, into his other gun. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's and I've grown up around guns. I've grown up around hunting. I feel like a lot more than most people, and that's a whole nother world. Yeah. And so that's what I think people don't realize is there is so much within you can use a pistol for target shooting. You can go into Western or cowboy shooting, which is, different loads and black powder. And so he travels around, he's retired from a bank, never was into guns. Actually, he was a golfer. Oh. And somebody said, hey, come try this out. And it hooked him. Him and his wife, my mother-in-law, did it. And she did it for a while and then just started, just didn't grab her as much as it did him. And now he has, I don't know how, probably, I don't want to say 100, but a lot of guns. Yeah. A lot of guns. And that's his passion is they drive around all over the Western United States. They come down here to the Utah Summer Games. Or no, the Senior Games. Yeah, the Huntsman World Senior Games. Yep. Yeah, we're having those, November? Yeah. Yeah, it was actually October. I can't. I don't have my book. Yeah, I think it's October, November. He actually. It's funny because he came down, and I think he's. I don't know, Kelly. How old you are, but 69, something like that. 68, maybe 70. And he came down last year, and he came home, and he had a medal, and he's like, "I got second place," and I'm like, "Dude, that's awesome. Great, good job." And his wife Evelyn says, "Well, Kelly, tell him the truth," and he's like. There was only 3 of us. Yeah. That's the best. He's like, but he still beat somebody. Yeah. He says, in my age class, there was only 3 competitors. And he says, the guy that gets first, man, he's just too good. And I says, well, jokingly, maybe he won't be around, and you can get that first place someday. Those guys that compete in that, because I see him like all the time because
No, I volunteer.
Oh, do you?
Out of the range.
Oh, cool.
The public
So you
range.
probably
So
met him there, yeah.
I have, all the shooters that come out there for that, and they're really good, but they spend a lot of time doing it.
Oh man, he reloads everything.
yeah.
When my kids go up to Grandpa's in Kaysville's where he lives, they reload. He pays them like, I don't know what, 10 cents a bullet or something, whatever, and they go down and put the primers in or put in the, whatever he has them do in the step of the process. But that's his therapy, and my grandpa, who just passed away, my dad's dad, so Grandpa Jay, that was his passion. It wasn't the Western shooting. He just liked to shoot targets just by himself, but his passion was reloading. And he'd reload for anybody, because it's therapy. And so that's what I think is so cool about this, and that's why I love having you here and all these different podcasts and people that I get to meet. Is it just opens up doors, and it's not just a door to self-defense with a pistol.
Right.
It can be, pistols, rifles. It can be long range. It can be self-defense. It can be hunting. It can be Western shooting. You probably know. I mean, what else is there? There's skeet shooting.
I mean, realistically, in the disciplines that there's so many. Like, I want to get into something that it's part of the long range shooting series, but it's the NRL Hunter series, and it's a team aspect. So like a lot of those shots, like you have a spotter and everything like that, and it's from different positions. And the reason why I like it is because all of the practices in that actual practice is applicable to like hunting and being out there in the real world and shooting. And so I try to train that way.
I would like that.
That's my aspect.
So you're up in the mountains and you're moving from
from barricade to different things,
awesome.
Running forward to different aspects. And so and you'll have different target areas that you have to go to. You know? And that's just really interesting and fun to me because it's applicable to life. Some people do precision shooting like bench rest. We have a group out there, great, but they load right there every single, 5 rounds at a time for each set of shots that they're going to take for the range that day. So they have it all calculated out in their head, what the wind is doing, what they need their bullet to do as far as, staying stable in the air to hit that target center X,
Wow.
And that's just nuts to watch. Not for me, I don't really want to do that stuff.
Right.
I like the other stuff, but so many different disciplines. I mean, you can get into anything you like when it comes to shooting.
I love that, like I said, Gina had, she's got her podcast, with Revitalized Womanhood. And she had a girl on that is a professional clay pigeon wing shooter. And I'm actually going to try to get her on.
And they're amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to get.
They're fast.
Yeah,
like, it's cool. Crazy.
And I'm like, that's cool. I'm getting her on the podcast, hopefully. But again, like we said, you just never know what's going to grab your attention. So, okay, so you got your certification and all your certifications,
right? And then, I had to go through the process of figuring out, obviously, insurance aspects,
yeah, I'm sure that's a big
LLC, all that. And then probably one of the longest things for like creating the business was really getting in at the range, like just kind of the politics of it all, meeting everybody. Everybody out there that volunteers is retired. So like, and unfortunately, like people, older folks don't like change.
Is it a private thing, or
so there's members, and then it's public. So like when it's open to the public. Membership gets in for free. Memberships can bring a guest.
Okay.
If you volunteer, then you can be there. If you're a regular volunteer, you can come there anytime you want. You get a gate code.
Okay.
Just get to use it whenever you want.
Okay, kind of like the archery range over there.
Yeah. Okay. And then
so it's public, but you have to pay a membership.
Exactly.
It's a government built thing.
So owned by the county.
Owned by the county.
So the land. So like they ultimately can make whatever rules they want.
Okay. So it's a county thing, provided by the county,
and then
they pay
grant
for it through memberships.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Cool.
that's.
And I can imagine that is, like you said, especially with older people who are set in their ways.
Yes. So it took time. So I would do like little things here and there for people. I would teach, some of my courses out of the clubhouse at my apartment building. And there was just a lot of things that, I had to go through to just get it kind of built, to where it actually worked. And then, I'm still dealing with, I was dealing with a merchant account yesterday, just finding one that'll allow me to do what I do.
Yeah, firearms are tough, man, because you post so one of our sponsors is Montana Knife Company, and he posted the other day and said this commercial was banned.
Yeah.
Did you see that by chance?
No, but there's a
and it's like a cowboy. It's literally a guy wakes up, gets on his horse, rides out, cuts a bale of hay with a knife, Montana knife.
Bale of hay.
Shows a knife, cuts a bale of hay.
Working man.
No animals injured.
Yeah.
No nothing, and they banned it because it's a knife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't imagine
it
guns.
Promotes
whatever.
Violence of some sort, like cutting a bale of hay, going out and feeding your animals.
It's like, what's shocking is you see that, and then you go, I just actually went to Deadpool.
Yeah.
Me and Gene were in there.
Violent.
Did you see it?
Oh man,
dude,
it was.
It's funny.
It was off the wall.
It was. But me and Gina, I'm like, we got out, and Gina says, my kids will not see that until they're 50.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that was, and it's like that can happen, but then, and I understand, that's, you got to pay, you got to go in. It's a private, it's not on TV. I understand that stuff, but people are getting access to anything they want. One, but two, it's like, man, it was a cowboy cutting a bale of hay. There was I just didn't see anything, and I can't imagine guns.
Yeah.
You probably posting yourself with just a gun probably gets blocked or.
If there's one in it, like sometimes I can trick it.
Yeah.
Like do some talking for like a certain amount of time before I ever show the gun.
Yeah.
And like see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's a juggling game all the time. I'm constantly, looking at the different analytics and stuff like that, trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But I have found that the best way to get around that is collaborations, like with social media, because then it's harder for the algorithm to block it through all of the different feeds that it's collaborating in.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Like with the food stuff, like I collaborate a lot.
Yeah. So you are now at the range. You've been out there. My wife actually, it was cool because what did I call you about? I called you about something. And you said, hey man, just heads up. I've got a class coming up this Saturday with a couple open spots.
Sent you the flyer real quick.
Yeah. Sent me a flyer. It was like $100.
Yeah.
Something
75,
like that.
100.
Yeah.
75, something like that.
I mean, just a good price. Just, felt very, I was like, yeah, we're in, and I went to my wife because it's funny because my wife, her dad, we just talked about, he's a huge shooter, has guns. He didn't have them when she was in the house necessarily. But she was around people, Utah, you're around that kind of stuff here and there. And then we've been married for 20 years and I've got
a plethora,
100 of guns, whatever. And they're hidden throughout our house in different little safes and stuff, just in case, for self-defense. And she doesn't like it, and she was a 911 dispatcher for like 6 years.
That's gotta be rough.
And and she, so I'm telling her, I'm like, babe, listen, these are for protection. And she understands all that. It's not like she's against guns. She just is uncomfortable with them personally.
Yes.
And, when I leave town, I'm like, babe, you have to know, I would love for you to know how to protect yourself. You're 100 pounds. Somebody comes in, you're going to be in trouble. And this isn't about you now. It's about our kids that might be with you. And I worked on her, several times just saying, hey, listen, let's try to get you signed up for this, signed up for that. And she never would really be open to it. But now that she's got her podcast, it's actually been completely changing her. I used to give her books all the time saying, read this book, read that book. And she's like, I don't care about that stuff. And now that she has her community, she reads a book every month.
She feels like she needs to have a wider knowledge to present to her.
Yeah. And she's, there's these stats, I don't know what they exactly are, but it says like 90% of people don't read a book after their formal education. They're just, they don't.
I feel like I started reading more books.
And I did too. And I think there's those ones that do, but it's rare. 10% of us continue our education. And she didn't. She was just like, I'm done with school. I'm done with that. I want to be a mom. I don't need to know anything more. And that's changed over the last couple of years. And now she's just trying to suck up as much knowledge as she can. She's reading books, taking courses, going to seminars, signing up for everything. And so it just happened at the right time. And I says, hey babe, Chace has got this class. It's this Saturday. She's pregnant,
Yeah. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like I think you'd mentioned it, but I did. Until she showed up, I was like,
I actually didn't, because she was like, when was, she was like 8-9 weeks pregnant. So it was brand new. And so I don't think I had told anybody at all. And, And so I says, "Hey, baby, you should go take this." And the biggest thing was she wasn't feeling good. She was, in the first trimester, whatever they call it, and she was just nauseous. And I says, "Listen, babe, it's for a couple hours. I think it'd be just good for you. Just go out there. There's no expectations." And I gave her a pistol, gave her some ammo, and she actually texted me while she was there, and she's like, "Is there any concerns with like a baby?" And I Googled it, and they're like, "No, not in the first trimester. They're still developing, and so there's no concern with the noise."
Right.
And she went out and loved it.
Yeah.
And what was good about it was it was all women, so she was comfortable. It wasn't this. And then she specifically said Chace is amazing. Misty as well. But she just said, man, he was so patient. And she just said, you're a very, very good instructor, and so kudos to you on that. For, I know you, I know your personality. You seem just like a positive, uplifting guy. And I can't imagine how you wouldn't be, a good instructor. But that's what she came back with. I was like, how was the shooting? What did you shoot? And she says, it was great. Chace was amazing. And I'm like, and that's what she took away from it, was how she felt. Yeah. Which is probably more of a woman thing than a man thing. Well, I'd come back and be like, I hit the bullseye.
Well, and it's funny because like that's course specifically. I took a lot of the details that you'd normally teach about like the guns specifically, and a lot of the details that go into like shooting. And I went through and really taught the women there just how to be comfortable with shooting before we ever even got into focusing on what we were trying to hit. Like, well, obviously we were trying to stay on target and hit a silhouette. But other than that, we're not trying to hit the bullseye. I'm trying to get you comfortable in whatever stance you need, your grip, your trigger pull, everything that you need. Yeah.
She was worried about the noise, and a guy's not necessarily, the guy's going to be like, oh,
we kind of like noise.
Yeah, bit, exactly. Crazy. Yeah.
But yeah.
And so you're right. You have to really change it for a woman.
Exactly. And the less really technical stuff you throw in there, the less they'll kind of shift off of, thinking about all the other things, because while you're teaching, women will start to think about the things that are going to happen. I mean, it's typical women behavior, to think about what can happen next. And so I just do really simple things to get them knowledgeable enough with the guns and tell them that every pistol is different, because that's what I really want them to know, because you're not going to get, once you get comfortable with this one, you're going to have to get re-comfortable with the next one if it's not very similar. Because
that's actually on my questions, because I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, including me.
Yeah. Yeah. So just through all that stuff, and I think that went really well. I had taught one other wielding women class before that, and I went through some extensive details, and it's all trial and error, different groups and factions. And then Misty being there is just huge, because I just have a lot of reservation towards women, like I don't like to touch them, like things like that. And I don't like them to feel like I'm kind of being like overbearing or anything like that about what I'm trying to teach them. So having Misty there to show them exactly what I'm saying, because I've already went through everything with her. Yeah. She's been trained as an RSO, range safety officer. And so she's there for safety reasons, as well as just that comfortable aspect, especially when I do like private lessons. Yeah. Like I won't do anything, even if it's a couple of ladies, without her being there.
Yeah, that's smart.
It just makes everything more comfortable. I want them to be as comfortable as possible. So that's a huge thing for that aspect. And so having her, do her thing on there has really, really worked out. And also some videos and aspects of her own, how do I put this, her own experiences with guns, because she wasn't really comfortable with guns.
Oh, okay.
When we first got married and stuff like that. Yeah, so
similar.
It took
similar
time.
Story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, with women, I didn't think about that, and that's why you do what you do. And we're here talking because with women, they're gonna learn completely different than a man. A man's gonna be like, I got it, man. Just give me the gun, let's pop the clip in, or the magazine. I always get that wrong.
Yeah, it's okay.
I always get teased because I do a gangster. I'm like, I don't know. Right?
It's
right?
It's funny. It's true, but it's funny.
What is a clip? A clip is slang? Oh, okay.
So like M1 Grands, they actually have a clip, like it holds onto the rear side of the rounds.
So
and
it
you
clips
have to shove
on, that's why it's called.
clipped on, and then you shove the clip down inside the magazine. So that's how it's like. Now we have, actually, removable magazines. They didn't used to have that.
Oh,
like even SKSs back in the day, they had a pretty large
Okay.
clip you'd have
Drum
to
or
shove
whatever.
through.
So this is a magazine. Everything that goes in is a magazine and a
Exactly.
pistol. Okay.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, a guy's gonna want to just, pop the magazine in and start
Mhm.
firing and blowing stuff up. And a woman, my wife, would hate that.
Yeah.
If you just said, "Here's the gun, like, come up here now, we're gonna start shooting it," she'd be like, "I'm not ready."
Yeah.
I need to, I need these steps to be able to,
Yes.
because she's, and that's what I think people out there listening is, that's okay.
Yeah.
First of all, it's okay to be nervous of these. They can be very dangerous if
Mhm.
you're not handled correctly. But at the same time, I always tell my wife, guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah.
Or miss or neglect.
Yes.
Just not understanding it. And that's what I told her. And when she came back, she has a pistol.
Yep.
And it's hidden for her.
Mhm.
It's a smaller caliber, so
Mhm.
it doesn't blow her back. And now she feels comfortable,
Yeah.
to at least take hold of that thing and try to defend herself,
And that's ultimately what it's for.
Yeah, and I tell her, whenever I pack mine, I pack it around, not as much as I should, but I do pack it around a lot, my concealed carry.
Mm.
And she'll just, back before your class, she would literally be like, why are you bringing that to the movie? Or why are you bringing that to, dinner? And I says, I will not be a fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
I refuse to be a victim.
Mm.
I'm going to fight back if I have to, and it just gives you that peace of mind. And I always think it's funny because I'll be in the movie or something or at dinner and I'll think everybody in this building is safer because I'm here with this gun.
Exactly.
I think that.
Yeah.
I think if something goes down, it's one of those when I took my concealed weapon class, it was from a gentleman here in town, but it was 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember his name. But he says, there's a lot of things that go involved with that, but you're not trying to be the hero.
Yeah, no.
You want to, he says that he told us of a story in Las Vegas where somebody came in, was shooting it up. A guy confronted him, shot him, and then there was a second shooter, and that second shooter shot him.
Yep.
And it's like, you want to hide, keep the people around you safe,
Mm-hmm.
And use it as a last resort.
Exactly.
You don't want to run out there and try to be a hero because you don't know if there's one guy, 10 guys,
Right.
Whatever. And that's where I think people, obviously it's a concern in America, right?
Mhm.
To be in a, what do you call them? Public shooting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this chances are very, I think you're more likely to be hit by lightning, they say. I know there's a very
That's
small,
probably pretty close. Yeah.
there's a very small chance we see them and they're always on the news. But the chances of actually being involved in one are very slim. But I tell my wife, like anything, it's like chances of me having to do CPR are probably slim, but I want to know how.
Mm-hmm.
Chances of me having to save my kid from choking are probably slim, but I want to know how.
Mm.
And that's what M42 Adventures is. And Shot Dixie is trying to tell people, listen, hopefully you never have to use this.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully you never have
I
to.
don't want you to ever have to go through the aspect of killing someone.
Ever. But if it becomes you or them, or
Yeah.
you or, for me, it's my family.
Yeah.
It's like, I will 1000% put myself between any home invader and my family
Mm-hmm.
to prevent that.
Exactly.
And so I think people listening, all these reservations, all these concerns are normal.
Yeah.
Are valid.
Mm.
You hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to, including, we were talking about jujitsu with Kip Sorensen.
Mm.
And I says, I want to do jujitsu, but I'm embarrassed to walk in there as a white belt or not even a white belt, no belt.
Yeah.
And start.
Oh, I love seeing new shooters.
And he says, dude, you don't realize, but when we see he's a black belt.
Mm-hmm.
He says, when I see somebody come in a white belt, he says, I know what they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're scared. I know they're intimidated. I know they feel inadequate.
Right.
And I respect them more than probably anybody else in the, gym.
Right.
Because they had the courage to walk in. And so that's what I want to encourage people is, go sign up for that class.
Mm-hmm.
Because you as an instructor know how hard that is for somebody to sign up and come out there and look like an idiot.
Exactly.
And it's like, and that's where I encourage people with, not encourage the people, but my coaches that are going to be in the Genesis, that none of them will be judging.
Yeah.
None of them. If they
Mm-hmm.
are, they're out.
Yeah.
I want people who are saying, that are considerate.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. So yeah, she came to your class, changed her life.
Yeah. No, it was great. I I felt really, blessed that, she even came because it was like a day or two
Yeah,
in
it was
between
fast.
time. Like, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden she just showed up. I'm like, you're Gina?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and
I tell other people, on that, I'm a big person in doing, not saying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and she tried to back out of it. Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick break from this conversation and talk about a couple things we have coming up for M42 Adventures. So as you know, hopefully, and if you don't, I'm here to tell you the Genesis, our online community, is open. It opened on September 1st, and it is a community where you can come in and learn new skills, meet new people. Go watch my video on the website. It's an introduction to it, about 5 minutes long. It'll explain it more, but the Genesis is open. It's going to be life-changing, and it is free for September, October, and November. Again, I was kind of warned against giving it for free because people don't necessarily take it seriously, I was told. But at the same time, I want people to have access to this to test it out and see what it is all about. And also we're still working on it. It's a beta test. It's a process. So again, it's free for September, October, November. Get in there, check it out. We're excited about it. We've got a couple coaches signed up already, and I'm going to be a coach in there on the financial channel and on the travel channel. So if you ever had any questions on your finances or traveling, I'm your guy. You'll have access to me, monthly, all the time, on helping you with those different things. So we're working on adding more coaches all the time. So thank you for listening to this podcast, and stay tuned for more updates. Let's get back to this conversation. Yeah,
well.
the next morning
Makes
she
sense.
says, or the night before, she says, oh, it's at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, babe, you will never regret going. It's
But
for
you
a
will
few
not.
hours, but it's something that you need to know. And she came back and she's like, I'm so glad I went, and so I encourage people to get their wallet out, get their, find the time, whatever you need to make something happen that is uncomfortable or new.
Right.
Try it.
Yeah.
Just try it.
And, I always tell people, like, if you're uncomfortable to the aspect of a group, like, take a couple classes private until you feel,
that's a good point.
comfortable enough to be around a group.
Yep.
There's always that. And then I always wanted to make the comment about the, guys and coming in and, just putting the mag in and dumping them downrange. I'm like, that's great and it's fun, but there's something I always see when I'm training a wife and a husband or girlfriend and boyfriend. And it's one of those things where, like, us men, we tend to feel like we know how to do things. And so we're just going to go at it. But the women always listen. And so by the end of the day, the girlfriends or wives are always out shooting the boyfriends and husbands. And I'll never see them again together. I'll see them separately, but never together again. Yeah. And I always like,
that's awesome.
And I try to tell them, I'm like, it's because you weren't, unfortunately, you weren't really listening to what I was saying.
Yeah.
I'm like,
the details.
Exactly.
Yeah. The attention's in the details. And that's a funny point, because I can see that. I can see how that would be with me and Gina for sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a couple questions here specifically. I have on here, knowing the gun you carry. So people who are wanting to get into this, obviously they should take a class, or find somebody, right? A friend, somebody that is above them or beyond them in training and knowledge.
Yeah.
But this is a big thing that I've struggled with. I actually brought my concealed carry in and showed Ricky. Is it a 308, my pistol, or
is it a 380?
380. It's got the little red dot on it.
Okay.
Built.
Yeah, no, that's kind of funny. You're carrying a 380 in general. You should probably give that one to Gina.
Should I?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, again, I bought it off of a buddy of mine who's going through some financial troubles. So it was in COVID. And I was like, I don't know what I need. I want something smaller so I don't have this big old bulge, somewhere on my body. But I think that's something that I need to know, and that people, I'm sure you teach, that, one is, what gun should you start with? What gun is a good concealed weapon? I'm sure it depends on body size,
grip strength, all those different types of things. The actual ability to be able to rack it, to actually load it. I mean, because I see tons of people, one of the let's see, I think it's the most popular concealed carry pistol right now, the Sig P365. That gun is tiny. Like, I don't even like to hold it, much like the Glock 43. It feels unnaturally small to me and so unsafe in my hands.
Yeah, that's how my 380 feels.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel like
So-
it's my it's like clear up here at the magazine, and I'm like,
And not only that's just asking for
tiny.
mag bite. Like, you're
Okay.
going to end up pinching your actual palm when you're
Okay.
putting a magazine in.
okay.
So, but I mean, there's ways to get around that, and any carry pistol that's going to be small enough to where it really comfortably carries is going to be a little bit harder to manage, like especially with big hands.
Mhm.
But there are ones that are a little bit better than others. And then I always tell people, whatever pistol you find you can shoot
Mm.
the most comfortable and accurately, that's what you should carry.
And I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to carry.
Yeah.
I just tuck mine down in my belt,
Right.
you know, where it's like, well, you could say, Rick, you're a big guy. You know, you probably need a bigger gun, but they have this one that you didn't know about,
Yep.
or you have this one on your chest or on your side or
Mhm.
on your back, you know,
All
and you
of
have,
them.
and so
Every option you can think of.
that's something that I need to come do with you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to where, I'll bring out my pistols. I've got 10 of them.
Yeah.
I've only shot like a couple of them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I bought a lot of them again in COVID. I bought a lot of stuff in COVID from people that were kind of struggling. And I've never shot them.
Yeah.
But I have like these huge, you know, like, I don't even know what they are. I got some.
You got some Desert Eagles?
Yeah. Like I got a big one that's like I don't know if it's a 45. Anyway, I got some big guns and I'm like, dude, there's no way I don't think, but
Yeah.
maybe you could say, no, you could. It just,
Yeah. It's all about like clothing that you wear.
Mhm.
Like, so your overgarments, preparing for that. I mean, it all requires prep. Like when you become a person who diligently carries every single day, it becomes part of your routine. Like, so
Yeah.
when you get up in the morning and when you're getting ready, you're getting basically together everything that you carry on your person. So like your EDC, as they call it.
Mhm.
So whatever that consists of, you know, you get it all together and you put it on, put it in, whatever you're going to carry, so that you know it's all in there.
Mhm.
Everything looks functional. Nothing's been tore open, anything like that. That your
Mhm.
tourniquets are properly, you know, just whatever you carry. And
Mhm.
so those aspects are something that you become a habit, you know, but it
Mhm.
takes time. Like
Yeah.
they'll start off with your pistol, and then you'll probably jump up to like your pistol and an extra magazine, and then a flashlight. I mean, most guys that end up carry a pocket knife anyways, you know, whether it be a
Yeah.
folding knife or just a straight knife,
Leatherman or something.
you know, so, or a multi-tool. So
Mhm.
any of those things, you develop it, whatever's the most valuable to you, depending on what your life is like,
Mm.
you know, and then you can carry it multiple different ways. Some people carry in a bag, some people carry on the persons, you know, like they have shoulder holsters, many different, out on the waistband, you know, so it's actually
Mhm.
visible, but tied against the body for
Mhm.
concealed carry, and then in the waistband. So, and then they can be placed all over your body.
Yeah, my wife actually had a girl on her podcast that does she makes like sports equipment.
Yeah.
Or sports apparel.
Alexa Athletica or something like that. Alexa.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She had her on her podcast and
Yeah.
she makes, you know, jogging clothes
Mhm.
and gym clothes that to carry.
I think she teamed up with Springfield Armory
Oh, did she?
because they have some. If it's the same, because I think I talked to Gene a little bit about it,
Okay.
and we are talking about the same person, they're great.
Yeah,
I
and I'm
mean,
like, that's
you know.
awesome, you know, because that's when a woman's vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, you got women we hear it all the time, you know, these women out on these trails jogging or running or
Yeah.
walking, you know, whatever. And, you know, it's usually in a remote spot for a minute, whatever. And
Mhm.
so I told Gina, I'm like, I love that, you
Yeah.
know, and they've developed it to where it will work while
Mhm.
you're running,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's what I want other people out there also who don't know is it can fit your lifestyle.
Oh yeah, any kind
know?
of lifestyle. I mean,
Like you're saying, my dad's a cowboy. He wears a jacket almost every day.
Yep.
It's going to be easier for him to carry something, but don't think that you have to carry a jacket. There's women out there jogging down the trail that have a 380 in their hip, you
Mhm.
know, that
and it's just tucked into that
Just-
waistband. In
yeah.
that, you know, it's just a thick, tight waistband on those
Yeah.
thing, and they can just tuck it in there,
yeah,
and it's easy access.
yeah.
Like,
I
they'll
love
get to it
that.
fast, and it stays snug in there too. They use some neat technology these days, and I mean, there's several companies with athletic gear now,
Yeah.
like Arrowhead
Okay.
Tactical.
Okay.
They developed a whole bunch of gear. I think Born Primitive has, especially for women,
Okay.
you know, has some
Okay.
gear. So there's really neat stuff out there, and so I try to bring that to the table, you know, and present it so that at least people can see it.
Yeah.
touch it, feel it, be aware that
Yeah.
it exists,
Yeah.
and how to use it as well. Because people go and look at gear at the store all the time and be like, well, I can get it and I'll put it in it, but then I don't know how to even wear it.
Exactly.
So it's like,
Exactly.
if this is something that you want to do, I'll show you how to wear it,
And you have, and I think a lot with women too is Gina likes to look nice. She's,
It's huge.
and she wants to be comfortable.
Mhm.
And, so for a man, it's like I've gone out a couple times and I have my gun and it's poking me in the ribs and I'm like, whatever, I'm safe. I'll deal with it,
Yeah, exactly.
But that would turn Gina away.
Yeah.
And so to let people know that there are options out there
Mhm.
to still look cute.
Yeah.
And I mean, they look like, the stuff that Gina was showing me looks like Lululemon or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
No, they're
it's like
nice.
beautiful, tight, clothes for running,
Right.
that can hide and hold a weapon.
No, people don't realize is like when you're dealing with something that has to be developed to be tactical or whatever you want to call it, it has to be built well because it has to be able to like hold up to holding onto your body,
Washing it,
everything like that
Yeah.
in between, and there's a lot of tension on all the different joints and threads and things like that. And they expect you to be using it in a fashion that's going to be a little bit rough.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
carrying a pistol,
Yeah.
So it's not just
so they
like
thought
at the
about
gym.
it. They didn't just sew it's not throwing it in your pants pocket. Like you said, it's
Exactly.
padded.
Exactly.
And so, and then a little bit more on knowing your gun, right?
Yeah. So I just recommend anybody, like for instance, around here in St. George, Rowdy's range.
Okay.
Go over there. They have quite a few selection of pistols to be able to use and just shoot. Rent each one. Find the caliber that you can comfortably shoot.
They have ammo there. They have everything. They
Everything.
have targets. I mean, you just show up.
Yeah, you just
They
go
have air
there.
protection.
You say, I want that.
That's awesome.
They got a 9mm MP5 if anybody wants to shoot a machine gun.
That's awesome.
So like,
yeah.
But that's just something you can go do. You go through all the different guns that they have, and obviously they don't have every gun, but the ones that you would end up buying for personal protection, going to be within a price range. They have all those. So you can go through, feel which one feels the best in your hand, which one feels like the recoil of it is best for you, that you can rack it. Because if you go buy a pistol, and this happens a lot with older people, because they have arthritis a lot of times, they'll buy a semi-automatic pistol like the 365, and they won't be able to rack it at all.
That's pulling the slide back.
So they can't pull the slide back at all.
It's too hard. It's hard. It can be tough.
Yeah, that's too loaded, and it takes a long time to break them in if they are just stiff. And then also, they can't even load the rounds into the magazine.
Yeah, I've had that trouble where pushing them down, man. My thumb's aching, and I'm
in any of the concealed
person.
ones that are like half stacks or double stacks, because the magazine is so small. That spring is much tighter, and so it takes a lot more working to get that up and down. My 2011 mags, those are nothing, but like you have my wife has a 365 XL, the Rose edition. Lena Mikulik made it. It's awesome, but
sounds pretty.
It's really cool. So she has a 12-round mag for that. She can't get all 12 in there, and she tries. Really, really hard, and she almost gets there, like 10 or 11. But that 12th one, almost never. And I don't load mags all the way, anyways, because I don't like to detent the springs too much, because then they stay, keep their mold. But either way, it's just one of those things that there are things that
you never think about.
Do.
People are thinking, will this stop somebody, and will this, fit in my belt? And it's like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but if you can't pull the trigger, or because my father-in-law's had a couple of guns where, just pulling the trigger's hard. Yeah, and there's trigger weight.
Yeah, you can
and he changes his.
Yeah, you can buy aftermarkets and all kinds of things, and even with a revolver, you can change out the actual trigger spring. But when it comes down to that, people that can't, like older folks, I have to tell them, I'm like, look, go get a revolver. They make great revolvers. You can change the spring. Because with revolvers, you're going to have a double action.
The benefit of a revolver is the loading of it. There's no magazine. It's easier to load. What else?
So you just bring out the drum. You can load it. So, and then it just goes right back in.
That's a good point.
There's nothing to pick up afterwards.
Yeah.
There's not a whole bunch of mechanics to it. There's not a magazine, a slide. You have a lot less to deal with. You're not going to have, like, a lot of times red dots on revolvers. So you just have to deal with teaching somebody how to use iron sights. And then after that, the trigger itself, you can mitigate having a heavier, or depending on the revolver, But
Can you not do that on the other guns?
so you can, some semi-automatics have the single action, double action, where the first pull actually draws the hammer back and fires it. So it's a full length pull, just like a revolver.
Okay.
And then after that, it's the half length pull, so that because the hammer's already back from that shot.
I see.
On older revolvers, every single pull is basically a double action. So it goes all the way through every single motion, from drawing it back to dropping it. And then you have your other single actions where you actually have to draw. I think that's how it goes. You have to drop the hammer and then pull the trigger. So on the semi-automatics, you usually don't have that. That doesn't even exist. So some people don't get revolvers because of how heavy that trigger pull is. But if you pull the hammer back, then it's all the trigger's all the way back.
Yeah.
And you can just pull it. It's very, very minimal and light.
You see in the Westerns where they hammer it down, and that's the speed, because they don't have to do it with their finger.
Well, and
that's double, right?
Well, a lot of reasons why they do that in the Westerns is cool. You can't. No, that trigger will not actually pull it all the way back.
Oh.
So, some of the old guns were different.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think people need to realize, and that's where even me sitting here, and this happens every podcast, I hate it. But every podcast that I think I know something, I don't.
Yeah.
And that's what
well, I don't know everything.
I know you don't. I know, but you know a lot about this subject, and that's what I think people don't realize, and that's what we'll talk more about this with the Genesis. But just for me sitting here talking to you, it's like I have guns. I've shot thousands and thousands of rounds out of pistols and rifles, and I've hunted and I've target shot, and and it's like, whoa, I need to spend some more time on this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I will do. And I'm not just going to tell my people, hey, you should do this. I'm going to do it. And so I want to continue. Once we get off this podcast, we'll set something up. But that's what I think people don't realize is, one, even people who think, that you see that have guns and have bows and have, they probably don't know everything. A lot of the stuff we learn is from our parents and just trickled down, and
we trust it.
We trust it,
which is the hard part, because you don't realize it's wrong until later.
Yeah, we were talking about this with breaking down an animal. When I went out hunting, my grandpa and dad showed me how to break down an animal like they were taught, and then I went out with somebody else that was like a butcher.
Yeah,
and he's like this, and I'm like, wow. I went to my dad, and I'm like, we're leaving like 20 or 30% of the meat.
Yep.
In the mountains.
Yep.
And he's like, really? I know there's some right here and right here, and I showed him.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa. And that's a good lesson of, take what you've been taught and then go seek out a professional and have them not only teach you more, but take you in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
Because that's where, with somebody like you, I can come in and say, I want to learn how to, long range shoot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you are, but maybe you're like, hey man, I don't have all of that knowledge. I'm very good at this.
Right.
But I'm sure guys who long range shoot.
Yeah.
This is your field. This is your expertise. And so I encourage people to, and I know Ricky's sitting here listening, and he knows a lot about stuff, and I'm sure he's learning new things just from hearing the conversation. And he's, been privy to all these conversations, and when he hears stuff, he's like, man, dude, when we were talking to Kip, he's like, I'm going to go sign up for Kempo. And now he's testing for his yellow belt on Saturday, and he's going to compete this year. His goal this year is to compete. Never, I mean, he'd done it a little bit, but I think this is what's cool about this is it gets us excited, gets us interested, and then we have a way to go and do it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that it's like, I want to get into that, and it's like, I don't know how to even start.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you being on for that fact that, I am grateful that there are people out there like you and me. I have my skill sets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like travel, I could help you book a trip tomorrow in 10 minutes and save you thousands of dollars because I know all the games. But that's what I love about life is find those people who are good at what they do and then do it. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I probably should do that, but I'm busy. We all have the same amount of time in the day. And if maybe by chance you just are too busy, then put it on a to-do list and find the time down the road. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about So we did the conceal weapon, best one for a guy and a girl. You just basically have to bring the individual in on that or talk to them over a Zoom meeting or something, I would
Right.
imagine, right? To where you kind of see what the size and what they're capable of and what their needs are.
Right. And you know, realistically, to protect yourself, you just want to carry something the largest caliber you can, comfortably and accurately shoot. Like, so you go through the works. I start everybody with a laser pistol just to get used to a trigger. You know, gripping the pistol.
What do you mean? What's a laser?
So I use it's a SIRT pistol. So it's an actual Glock 17. So it looks just like a Glock 17. Doesn't do anything, but it has a rubber magazine that has the same weight as a fully loaded magazine that you can eject and put back in.
Oh, cool.
And then it has an actual laser where the muzzle is. So when you pull the trigger, it emits a laser. And then there's also another laser on it that's helpful for instruction, where when you pull it back to where it's about to break, which is the wall in the trigger, so you have take up in your trigger. Every gun is different on that take up. But it teaches you when you get to that wall, there's another laser that turns on, like other than the one that turns on when you shoot. Okay. So 2 will be presented when you pull the trigger and hold it, but just the one kind of offset will turn on when they get to that wall. It's helpful because it's very important when accurately shooting that you don't slap the trigger, as we like to call it. So like you're not drawing that whole thing back every single time. You're only releasing it to where it resets and pulling back the trigger so that you only have a small amount of movement to mitigate that shot.
I've never thought about that.
And so it just goes into those training aspects of like what to go through. And
what your gun will do.
And so I can teach them with something that doesn't go bang, you know, so I can go through that aspect, teach them how to release a magazine, load a magazine, and it feels fully loaded. So I don't have to worry about them having an accidental discharge if I'm trying to train them with a real gun and real ammo. So, you know, because even the dummy rounds, they're not weighted like a real ammunition is. So it doesn't really help you with training as much. So I go through that.
Like blanks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and then, you don't have the slug on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then so you go into 22 after that. I'll put them on a 22 semi-automatic pistol.
That's what I had Gina bring.
Yeah.
Was a 22.
So there was a Ruger.
Yeah.
Very interesting pistol. I mean, you know, it operates differently than almost any other pistol.
Oh,
that
does
one
it?
does. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's when I was messing with it, I'm like, okay, you know, I just wasn't used to even that's like a pocket pistol.
Yeah, I thought that'd be like a common Ruger. You know,
well, Ruger makes all kinds of pistols,
that's
but
true.
that one, it's really, really small in comparison to most pistols.
Okay.
But going through that, move on to the 22. That has a red dot on it. I just use it because I like people to know how a red dot works.
Yeah.
So then I can get them accurately shooting with the 22, move up to a 9mm. I don't even bother with 380 because I don't really, you know, that ammunition just isn't really
awkward
popular. No, it's just not really popular. So like I wouldn't tell somebody to carry it because if they ran out, like it's not like Joe, you know, this person that just went down, you know, in a firefight is going to have 380 ammo. So I try to stick with things that are the most common.
Police might have, or
so 9mm.
Okay.
Most common out of anything. Is 9mm.
Okay.
You're going to have a lot of people that are in the military and police that are going to carry 45 just because they're old school.
I have a couple 40s.
Yeah, and 40s are great. You know,
okay.
But now that they make 10mm, which is basically 40, just more power.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I've never heard of that.
So 10mm is a 40 caliber bullet. Just it's I would call it kind of like a 40 cal Magnum. Like that's what I feel it. But I like them. People carry them for like bear guns.
Okay.
You know, so you strap a pistol to your chest while you're out hunting.
Yeah.
It's faster to pull out and shoot. You know, so you're not trying to aim your rifle at a bear that's running at you.
Yeah.
So all kinds of things like that go into play.
Okay.
When you get up there, you know, then you find out what you can actually get into. I always have people at least shoot like the 357 Magnum, you know, at the end, just so they can feel something that has a lot of
that's a revolver,
to
right?
it. Yeah. And so there's some things in there just to get them so they know how powerful a gun can be, and then they can pick in the middle of the range. 9mm is usually not too strong for anybody, but it can be.
And I think that's smart too, because like we were just in Africa on our trip, and my kids were shooting the guns for their first, not their first time, but hunting for their first time.
Yeah.
And they had a 6.5 Creedmoor, and then they had something else. I don't even know. It was like a 3 something. I don't know what it was, but a big gun.
Yeah.
For a bigger game, you know, for like Cape Buffalo.
Okay.
And they shot the 6.5, and they're like, "Whoa, that kicked hard." You know, they're 10 and 9 and 12. And he says, "Do you want to shoot a big gun?" And they're like, "Oh," you know, scared. And they shot, and then when they went back to the 6.5, they're like, this doesn't kick.
Yeah.
And I think they had thought that it kicked hard. And after going harder, and then they came back, they felt very comfortable with the 6.5.
Exactly why I do that.
And I was like, oh, that's a good tactic.
It's just because, like, you could be a little bit taken back by the 357 Magnum.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
it's
the
got a
Dirty
lot of
Harry
power.
gun, right?
Yeah, I think he might have been carrying a 44
was
Magnum.
it? Yeah.
But that, I mean, they feel very similar, even though they're like larger rounds. It's just a lot of power in your hand. And then you go back down and it's like nothing.
Yeah.
So what you were originally afraid of is like, a pea shooter compared to this.
Yep.
It's
like dropping a weight class.
Well, and then if you can get comfortably shooting this, like just at least comfortable to where you can grip it well and you can hit the target, then you'll shoot this twice as good because your grip is better manageable by that point in time. And that's your grip, your trigger, and like a couple other small things are really just what you really need to focus on. Everything else kind of happens, and then becomes muscle memory.
I remember going snowboarding when I first started snowboarding. I actually became an instructor up in Park City in college. But when I first started, I remember going out snowboarding, and I'm in Bryan Head doing the blue runs, and just thinking, man, this is hard, this is scary, And then I had some buddies come up from Vegas that were professional snowboarders, and we went up and started doing like black diamonds.
Yeah.
And I did that with them for a few days, and it was pretty wild. And after they had left, I went back to my blue runs, and I'm like, oh my God,
right?
This is not, there's no trees, there's no cliffs,
right?
And it was, I remember calling my buddy saying, dude, I feel so much more comfortable on the blue runs. And he says, that's, if you go snowboarding with people better than you, they're going to push you. And then when you come back to what you were, it's a tactic, And I'm like, oh, I love that.
I had a roommate. His name is Giles. He was basically like a never-ending summer but winter guy, So he just traveled around. He goes to New Zealand and during the
Chases
summer
the
here. So that's just what he does.
That's awesome.
And so he was my roommate in Ogden. I was working at Snow Basin as a chef, and he would take me out board. He would ski and I would board, but he'd take me out backcountry to like the craziest places. And once I learned how to do that through powder and trees and all this other stuff, it was amazing to just go down the mountain.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's when I started. It was a couple years later, but when I went up and interviewed to teach at the canyons in Park City, they're like, I felt confident because I'm like, I'm not taking these people out into that.
Exactly.
I'm teaching these tourists how to go down the hill, but by knowing what I was capable of, if it had to happen, I could for sure do this. And so that's like you're saying, if you know you're capable of running that gun, you can do this one.
Exactly.
And so I think that's a very good point. What's our time at, Ricky? What are we looking at? 1 hour. So I got a couple more things. I don't want to go too long with you here, but I got a couple more things I wanted to go over. So the cost of getting into it. What would that ballpark, just so people out there, thinking a couple lessons maybe, and picking up a pistol, and I mean, it's not.
I think anybody could get into it, with a brand new pistol. I mean, if they want to buy used, that even gets them in, differently.
Absolutely.
And that's always a viable option because lots of people buy pistols that they just don't like.
Absolutely.
They just shoot them a couple times.
I would look at that first.
Exactly.
I'm always one of those guys where don't go buy a car off the car lot.
Yeah, and here in Utah, there's rules and regulations or lack thereof. Just, go on Utah Gun Exchange, find somebody that has the gun that you want that you wouldn't try it out first,
So go to Rowdy's Range. That's going to be a couple $100, maybe.
Maybe. Probably more like maybe $100.
$100. You go down to the range, shoot 3 or 4 guns.
Yep.
See what one you like.
And then go find one,
And people don't realize it, but you can own a gun.
Yeah.
Can you own a gun in any state? I don't know. There's probably some rules. Like in
you can
California.
own a gun.
Can you?
Just most of the time, pistols are regulated more than anything else.
Okay.
Some states, like what was it? I forget what. Maryland. Did Maryland just ban AR-15s? Was it Maryland? Yeah.
Oh, is it?
So that's happened now. You know, but
has that happened in California?
No.
Wow,
they have regulations on their AR-15, so it can't have a removable magazine, all kinds of stupid things.
But they actually banned it in Maryland, huh?
They're trying right now. So, and they're going to confiscate them, which is even more ridiculous.
Wow.
But so they've set up regulations like that. But ultimately, owning a firearm is constitutional right.
Okay.
So most long guns you can pick up at any Walmart around the country.
Okay.
You know, because every politician hunts, so
Right,
they're not going to
yeah.
mess with that.
Yeah.
'cause that's part of their free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, when it goes down like that, you can find a gun pretty much anywhere, and then you
And
can
you
go
don't
out.
have to get a concealed weapon. That's what
No.
people don't like. I just want people to know that you don't have to go and buy a pistol and then take all these classes.
Right.
You can and should
Yes.
take these classes,
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
But you can go buy a gun and some bullets, and you can go out in the, out somewhere to a range,
Right.
or if your mountain's allowed, if there's a, whatever.
Public lands out here, great.
Yeah.
You know, just find an area. Pistols don't shoot really far.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
like, that bullet starts to drop and hits the ground after,
quick.
you can't even barely hit like 200 yards with a pistol.
Okay.
Maybe a little further if you have a longer barrel.
Yeah.
But other than that, not accurately.
Okay.
So you go out somewhere that has a backstop, that roughly
Pick up
25
your
yards.
casings,
Yeah.
watch for
Clean
fires.
up after yourself.
Yeah, don't shoot TVs.
Exactly.
Come on.
That just
Come
gets
on.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you go out there, clean up after yourself, leave it better than you found it.
Yep.
And then, but just go out there, train by yourself. You don't have to go to the range,
Mhm.
because it's going to cost you $15, $20 to go to the range
Mm-hmm.
every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that until you're comfortable. Then go to a range, because they're going to have range officers and things like that can assist you a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to go to a course yet.
Mhm.
So then you get a little bit more knowledge
Mhm.
there, on the shooting
And see
aspects.
if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is just keep seeing if it fills your cup.
And most people, once they get shooting and they're
Oh, it's
comfortable,
addicting. It's addicting.
it is an addiction. It's
Absolutely.
very funny to watch.
Absolutely.
Women who are very scared by the guns, and then they're like, want to never stop shooting
Absolutely,
that day.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's adrenaline.
it is.
Yeah.
And so
it's freedom for me.
And so you go through that aspect, figure out if you want to shoot, then go take a class, and find somebody that
And the
you know,
pistols are what, like
they can be anywhere from
300 to 800 or something.
300 to 800 is a pretty good ballpark for
Yeah.
a concealed carry. And
And
when you
it's-
get outside that, you're getting into like just a little bit more aggressive, like fine-tuned pistols.
Yeah.
But you can get a
That's
Glock
a good
for $500.
starter. Yeah.
And I don't carry Glocks, but I have nothing against Glocks.
Right.
They're reliable,
Yeah,
but
they're
I just
popular.
feel like they are a little hinky to me. Like just the way they feel in my hand and the way they operate just doesn't feel as solid as something else I carry. So it's just my own personal opinion. SIGs, range anywhere. You can get a good SIG for like $400 to $600.
We bought what did we buy for our event? Just Ricky, the five pistols we bought with Ryan. Do you know what those were? I don't remember what they were. We bought them over at Dixie Gun and Fish, but we put a red dot on them, and they were like $500
Yeah.
each or something. And
Yeah.
they're like green or
Okay.
tan.
Okay.
I don't know what they are.
I don't know what they would have been. They
That's
could have been. Everybody makes
40s
them.
or 40. I
FDE.
think I think they were 45. Anyway, but we bought them for our experiences that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And we took guys up to Ryan used them for his event at Order Man, and then we used them for our event in New Harmony.
Mhm.
I mean, like you said, we were they had to use one.
Yeah.
So they had to use one with like 3 magazines.
Mhm.
And then we bought I think we bought 5. So we bought 4 other brand new ones.
Yeah.
But they're like, these magazines will basically give you another magazine for
Right.
3 of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were a couple grand, we
Yeah.
were like $2,500 or something
bad at
for
all.
5 pistols.
When one pistol can cost you that much easy.
Yeah, exactly. And so, anyway, so I just want people to understand that this isn't, $10,000
No.
to go try,
No,
just
that's
to
like
go test.
You won't get anywhere near that. I mean, until you start like being like a competition shooter,
Right.
because then you get like fine-tuned precision pistols with like hair triggers. Everything about it set up
Mhm.
specifically for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna be spending a pretty penny.
Yeah.
The most I would ever spend on on a carry pistol. I mean, I don't even think I would logically, just because I would like it, would carry a staccato. But that's like $2,500,
Mm-hmm.
and that's on the low end of the high end guns.
Mhm.
Like
It's just like anything. I mean, you can go as far as you want to go.
exactly. So
But at the same time, entry level people who want to try this and get
$500.
into it, $500. And if you don't
we'll
want
get
to
you
spend
a
that,
decent gun.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's with a couple magazines and some ammo.
yep,
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then after that, it's just the range fees or just going out.
right,
Find some, I like the little self-healing things because then you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on like a target stand and things like that. Go shoot stuff like that because then it's in like the shape of a bottle, but you're not putting glass all over the place.
What do you mean by self-healing? What does that mean?
So they have self-healing targets that are like made of like a rubberized material, so the bullets will go through them and it kind of seals back up.
Oh, I haven't seen those.
Yeah, so they have a whole different variety of animals, bottles, things that are round, things that roll on the ground,
silhouettes, whatever,
something like that, so that you don't have to take a whole bunch of stuff with you.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know,
I've never heard of those.
Throw that stuff up, shoot at it until you get comfortable. Then go find an instructor. Yeah. Definitely make sure you meet your instructor first.
Right.
Make sure you like that person.
Right.
Because if you go to be instructed by somebody you don't like, well, that's not going to be a pleasant experience, and you're not going to learn anything.
Absolutely.
So make sure you're comfortable with that person.
And vet them. I tell everybody. And that's one thing we're going to do with our coaches in the Genesis is vet them. Yeah. To where, I actually had somebody just the other day, and I won't mention any names, but we had somebody say, we're broke.
Yeah.
And I says, you're broke. Your wife's posting all the time that she's making 6 figures. Yeah. And he literally said, fake it till you make it, right? And something like to that effect, and I'm like, whoa, that's.
I think that's lying.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It is 100%. I'm like, that's terrifying, I'm like, but I understand it as far as what they're thinking and they're doing, but I tell everybody, if you get a mentor or a coach or a, instructor, vet them, ask them like, hey man, how long you been doing this? What's your background? Because I'm sure I could go, or somebody could go and act like an instructor of anything pretty quick, right? So anyway, I would say vet them. And then the other thing they can do is, all that aside, we're doing events, right? We have experiences here in Utah at my parents' ranch where we brought 33 people this year. We're doing 2 more this fall, and then next year we're going to have more where people come and we have bows, we have horses, we have UTVs, we have those 5 pistols. Yep. And you can get a crash course of all these different experiences, outdoor cooking, and find something like that. It doesn't have to be with us. Find somebody else doing it if you want. Do it yourself. I don't care. Exactly. But just get out there and try to experience it. I wanted to get into just real quick 2 things. So I want to talk a little bit about the Genesis. You know a little bit about it. So we got that. We got that coming out, and I wanted to talk to you, and we'll talk more obviously off camera, off mic. But basically it's getting people. We've got these channels, and we would like to have these coaches come in that teach what they know, and one of ours is firearms. And so I'm hoping to have you come into that. We'll talk more again. I know we just talked about it for 10 minutes before the podcast, but I think you'd be a great fit for that. And so people listening, hopefully I'll get Chace, on board.
I'd be more than happy to help.
And you guys can get to know him better, and he'll be in there teaching, and you guys can hear how much knowledge he has of this subject. And I'm going to be, so the way it works is we have these different channels, I think.
I think that's what he said. I'm pretty sure he said channel. Yes. Okay.
And then you can sign up for the ones you're interested in, and I will be in yours. Yeah. If you're the coach, I will be in yours, because this is something I want to know more about. So I encourage people to check that out, look into that. Continue to listen for if Chace is a part of that. I hope you will be. We'll talk more. How do people reach you? What for now?
So, obviously I have my website, topshotdixieacademy.com. I'm also on Instagram, topshotdixie, as an underscore in between each word. And then, what else? Oh, YouTube.
Your personal page too is Spirit Unbound, right?
Oh yeah, that's my personal page.
And that one's a great one too, because that's got, again, you're going to hear Chace. This is his second podcast with me. He's a man of many talents, but the outdoor cooking that you guys do is unbelievable. And I need to get with you to set up that for my cabin. Yeah. Before long, we need to do that. But again, go to that page, because that's a little bit of mix of all your interests and what you enjoy.
And then, I'm working on getting an FFL, but like right now I just do all my own, like build my own guns and stuff like that. And, I have some videos of different builds that I've done and things like that. So like my knowledge of rifles and things like that's pretty extensive
It
as well.
It is.
I just don't tend to teach
I saw the
that
blue
so
one
much.
you made. You made like
Yeah.
a blue one the
Yeah.
other day for your wife.
The robin's egg one.
Oh,
Yeah. That one's
thing
carbon
is-
fiber too. It's pretty
oh,
cool.
That thing is. So yeah, that's the thing is you know all aspects. People who are building guns, I
Right.
mean, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. And I reload all my own ammo.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
So yeah, reach out to Chace, follow him, stay tuned. I appreciate having you on. Always a pleasure, man. You're just a good dude. I
Thank you,
enjoy
Rick.
your
I
friendship.
feel the same.
I appreciate your time. So we'll continue this conversation when we wrap this up, and stay tuned for Chace because I'm not done with you.
All right.
All right, brother. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.